concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the live stream. It's Monday night. 507 RC. Almost missed the live stream. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't miss the live stream. I'm Joshua Bardwell. It's Monday night. It's time to do some Q&A. What's up? How you guys doing? Greetings from Pennsylvania, Garfly, Metal Gappy. Nice to see you. It's Blenty. He's in the Discord. Martin just pledged 20 minutes ago and got on the live stream. Nice timing, Martin. Welcome. Will I make it on time? It's Plenty. I did. I'm a minute early. How did I do that? I must have. How's it a minute early? Oh well, it'll be all right. Oh, Sweden signing in drone production. Sweden. Say hello to David Wintershall for me. I just assumed that Sweden's a small country and you guys all know each other. I assume that all Swedes know David Wintershall. I mean, he is a very nice guy and agree. He'd probably be glad to meet you. Oh, the chat is popping off with the hellos. Hello, Texas. Evening, all Galvar FPV. With the delay, I'm on time. Yeah, to you guys. Yeah, that's a good point. Nick Sebring, North Carolina in the house. Ryan Lewis made my pizza recipe. Yeah, I hope it was good. If it wasn't good, it's your fault. Wisconsin, get us some of that nice Wisconsin cheese in there. Okay. Nuke says the beard's looking good. I'm working on it. I'm working on the beard. This is my pandemic beard. Hello, Boston, UK. Your mom says it's a flat earth. Oh, UAV Tech. But he has an opinion on whether it's a flat earth. Oh, Orlando, Rstang 50. Locust Grove, Georgia. We're just going to spend the whole stream reading people's hometowns. You know, I didn't set out to grow a beard. I just went for a long time without shaving. And then I was like, maybe I'll just see what happens. You know? So we'll see what happens. Beardwell needs to stay. Beardwell. That's pretty funny. We'll see. We'll see. I haven't had a beard in a long time. Zachary Vilipi. Yeah, is it a Q&A or a hello feed? I don't know, man. I just got here. What's going on? Is it... oh. Yeah. Kennesaw, Georgia. Killer Bees. Do you know Killer Bees? I lived in Kennesaw, Georgia for many years. I lived just off the exit in a little apartment. Then I bought a condo just across the street from the apartment. Or not a condo, a townhome. Just across the street from the apartment in Kennesaw, Georgia. Kennesaw is a nice place to live. I liked it there. I miss it. Every time I drive to Atlanta, I pull off at my favorite restaurant in Kennesaw and kind of drive by my apartment, by my townhome. You know where the Ruth's Chris is in Kennesaw? Just off the highway, they built a Ruth's Chris. There's that big shopping center that didn't used to be there. I lived about across the street from there. Anyway. Oh, I like to start the stream off with some news of the day, but on Mondays I never know what to do with the news because I do the news on Sunday, and then between Sunday and Monday nothing really happens. And then I'm like, well, should I just do the same news again because y'all weren't here? Or am I, like, boring you? I don't know. Here's the news for today. Here's the news for today. Pigs! Yeah! Hello, piggies! Oh, yeah, you get that grass. Hi, piggies! All right. So, yeah. We have pigs again. Yep, we got pigs. And now we have six-ish months to figure out what's going to happen because apparently all the meat processing plants in the United States are like, So I don't know what we're going to do about that. But some people out there are probably vegetarians, and so we probably shouldn't delve too deeply into that topic. That's news, though. We got pigs now. Pigs again. What am I drinking? It's a Q&A live stream. This is Sprite with gin in it. And I think I put in some ginger syrup. Yeah, just because, if you have ginger syrup, then. How are the chickens doing? The chickens are doing good, Eric. No pictures of the chickens today. What did you do to the old pigs, Nathan? They went to college. Patronus wants to know why his OSD doesn't show on his FPV feed. Patronus, the number one reason why your OSD will not show up is because you have the NTSC/PAL setting wrong. Go into the OSD tab. It reads Auto NTSC PAL. Set it from, it's probably on Auto. Set it to NTSC. Hit Save. Power cycle the whole quad. If you don't power cycle the quad, it doesn't work. And then if that doesn't work, change it to PAL. That'll probably fix it. Limits its yes, I'm with 4.2 I have hot motors. With 4.1 I didn't have hot motors. That's a tough one. 4.2 is still in release candidate. I mean, I would probably suggest starting on the defaults, then set up RPM filtering. And then see if your motors are still hot. If you didn't have hot motors on 4.1, you shouldn't have hot motors on 4.2. Not that much has changed. So I would check your configuration. Eric Zierger, do you know why your Radio Master is stuck in China? Yeah. So in case you guys missed it, I've seen Andy RC or Albert Kim, or I don't know. Painless 360. I can't even Kebab. I know for sure. It just hurts me to look and think about that. These guys have they got their Jumper T16s. Their Radio Master TX16S. They're reviewing it. I'm just sitting here on my hands because it hasn't come yet. They said they shipped them all on the same day, but DHL out of Hong Kong is completely effed up because they ship packages on passenger flights and there are no passenger flights because there aren't very many. So DHL has my Jumper, my Radio Master, It's in Hong Kong, and it hasn't left Hong Kong, and I don't know when I'm going to get it. So I can't review it. It hurts. But why didn't it come? Well, just random luck of the draw, I guess. Sucks. I made a post on Facebook saying, hey, can anybody get me one? And I did get an offer from a kind person who said they would send me theirs. They got it. It's still in the box. They're going to mail it to me. So I should get one. I'm going to have to send it back. No big deal. But I will have something to review. So that's nice. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. If you're new here, by the way, if you're new here, say hello. If it's your first live stream, welcome. Congratulations. This is what we do. Let me show you what I got going on. This is my screen. This is my layout right here. You guys are up here in the upper right. Got some super chats down here in the lower right. You guys are asking questions. I'm answering questions. That's what we do. We're waiting for your take on the TX16 Priya Barata. Yeah, well, I can't wait to give it to you. I mean, I have an opinion on it. Hold on, I'll show you in a minute. Up here in the upper left, these are my patrons. Hello, patrons. I have a Discord server. It's open to patrons only, though. And, you know, they can hang out and talk amongst themselves about how much they like me. Right? That's pretty much what you guys do, right? But I also answer questions during the live stream. If you want to get a question through, a lot of people are going to ask a lot of questions, and there's just no way I'm going to answer them all. I just can't in the live stream. If you want to make sure I get to your question, there's a $sign right here that is called a super chat. You give YouTube a little bit of money, YouTube gives me a little bit of money, and your question ends up down here, just like all these fine people who I will now commence to ignore for a short period of time while I do other things. But I'll get to them. I'll get to them. I'll get to them. Lucario, it's whatever YouTube's delay is normally. 8 seconds seems about right. I really wish that there was such a thing as like a, you know, like the on network television where they got the 7-second delay. And if somebody like takes their pants off or cusses, you can just hit a button and drop them. Why is that not an OBS plugin? That would be so useful. Fat Man for Prez says, you think we like you? Hey, I don't. You know what, Fat Man? I like adoration. Of course, doesn't everyone? But I also like money because I have to eat and pay bills. So if you dislike me, but for some reason you still join my Patreon, hey, I'm not going to, you know, don't do it's fine. I don't care. Killer Bees in the Discord asks, regarding lipos and storage capacity, if I charge a pack and it ends up sitting at full charge for 4 to 5 days, does that hurt the cells at all? Yes, it does. So the way that it works is, anytime a battery spends not at its nominal voltage, its capacity, its performance is reduced. So when you charge a battery up to 4.2 volts, you're hurting it. When you discharge it down to 3.5 volts, you're hurting it. So I guess the message is that life is pain for a battery and for people as well. So the question is, what's the trade-off that you're making? When you charge the battery, you can't fly the battery if you don't charge it to full charge. So you're going to have to charge it. So the best thing you could do would be right before you fly the battery, you lovingly charge the battery to 4.2 volts at a rate of 1C. And then the minute you take it off the charger, you go and you gently fly it at a rate of 1C. No, that's not going to happen. So we make trade-offs because these are batteries where they're here to be used. They're not here to just sit on a shelf and be looked at. Here's the thing. There aren't many, in FPV at least, there aren't many rigorous studies of the effect of having batteries fully charged. But I have seen a couple of them. And the takeaway that I've taken from the studies that I've seen is that the charge time is cumulative. So if you charge your battery to 4.2 volts and you leave it there for 30 days, that has about the same effect as if you charge your battery to 4.2 volts, you leave it there for 24 hours, and then you fly it. And you do that 30 times. The more time it spends cumulatively at full charge, the more its performance degrades. Now, the one test I did see was by, I think it was lipobench.de. I'm not even sure that website is still updating. But they did a test and they found 5% loss of performance after 30 days at full charge. That's something, but it's actually not that. It's not like a lot. And who knows if that's a linear decline or if that levels off. We don't know. So my rule of thumb is that I don't leave my batteries fully charged any longer than I have to. But I don't, if I have to leave them, if I charge them and it's rainy and then I fly the day after, just leave them. Right? The time and hassle of discharging them to storage and putting them back again, nah. But if it's like 2 or 3 days, then I'll put them back to storage, mostly. Sometimes I forget. So I hope that answered your question, Killer Bees. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get some more questions. Your lipos are good, fully charged for at least 2 weeks, says 661 FPV. I mean, they're not going to like... The other thing is that you don't want to leave them fully charged, because if they are fully charged, they can... when they explode, that's bad. So watch out for that. You know, if they're at storage voltage, they're much less likely to spontaneously explode. Not that they're particularly likely. Liam Klimenchenko wants to know, what goggles, remote, and antennas are the best for long range? Will the T16 work for the controller? The best control for long range is probably Crossfire. With 400 megahertz Dragon Link, you could go further, but Crossfire can go as far as most people would ever want to go. And it has just so much more mature an ecosystem, software support, and so forth. So for control, you would definitely want Crossfire. And the beauty is that many different controllers can use Crossfire. So you could pick a Futaba controller, you could pick a Spectrum DX9, you could pick a Jumper or a Radio Master. They would all work with Crossfire. The big question is video. What video do you need? And for long range, for truly long range, 1.3 gigahertz video is the one to get. Matek, M-A-T-E-K, has a 1.3 gigahertz video transmitter and receiver that that's basically it. There's a ready-made RC one and a Matek one, and that's basically it. So that's really what you would be looking for, I think. .4 gig. DJ Pop in the Discord says 2.4 gig is enough. I mean, 2.4 gig can go pretty far. 1.3 gig goes farther. There can be issues with 1.3 gig and 900 megahertz interfering harmonics. I think you need a filter. But if you're going to do long range, then you got to be prepared to deal with that nonsense. Nicholas Luby wants to know, speaking of Crossfire, do you know what's going on with the lack of stock even before the whole COVID thing? I mean, before the whole COVID thing was Chinese New Year. I mean, this whole COVID thing happened at the exact worst time for, like there's ever a good time to have a pandemic. But over here on the TBS Lounge, they do have a pinned post up at the top showing stock info. And it looks like they are very, very close to getting stuff back in stock. Micro TX, back order shipping this week, in stock at the end of the month. Full TX, light this week, full next week. Tango 2, yeah. Now, this is at the TBS store, presumably. If you're trying to buy from a distributor, that'll probably be longer. And, again, shipping from Asia to the United States is totally effed right now. So, your actual time when you'll get it, hard to say. But I've been thinking about getting a light TX because ever since I started running Crossfire Shot, I've locked the transmitter at 150 hertz to get that ultra low latency. And at 150 hertz, the range is pretty significantly reduced. It's still pretty good, but it's slow. You actually have to think ever about fail-safing. So with the 2-watt light TX, I would be able to run 150 hertz and not worry about fail-safing. So that's good. Let's get some of these super chats. They're stacking up. Let me get some of these super chats out of the way. Super Deluxe, thank you for $20. That's a big donation, Super Deluxe. Super Deluxe says, have my FPV babies, you stud. Thank you for your donation, Super Deluxe. I read almost all of the super chats. I don't read every super chat because if you know, there are certain things you could put in a super chat that I wouldn't leave, but I will read that one. Nick Sebring says, I'm online with Race Day Quads. A lot of their stuff is out of stock as well. A lot of stuff is out of stock everywhere. As part of my website, I have a bunch of links to a bunch of products on my website. And every month I go through the website and I look at what's in stock and what's out of stock. Because if there's a product that's like been discontinued or it's just never in stock, I don't want to have it on the website. It's kind of a waste of your time to show it to you if you can't buy it. And right now, we actually just did the month of May. About 25% of the products that are on my website are out of stock. Just stuff's out of stock because of the coronavirus and all that stuff. Parklander says, Get FPV has TBS Nano in stock right now. Gonna buy some real quick. Hold on. Pause the stream. Crossfire Nano RX in stock. Hold on. Pause the stream. I gotta pick up a couple of these. I'm not gonna show you my credit card number though. Okay. Alexander Common, thank you for $2. What do you think about cheap balance chargers? It depends on what you mean by cheap. I've used some cheap chargers before. I've had them blow up batteries before. But so I don't think it's worth saving a couple bucks on a charger with the risk of like burning your house down. Spend a little bit of money on it. You don't have to spend top dollar on like a Progressive RC or a Venom charger. Not that those aren't good. They are good and they are better. You know, they're more reliable and more accurate than the cheaper ones. I feel like an ISDT, a Hobby Mate, that's a great price point. You spend $60 to $150 on a charger, you'll do okay. The very, very cheapest ones, you're taking a risk. So, John Koopy, thank you for $5. John, I don't know how to say your name. I hope I'm probably saying it wrong. Who are we kidding? Thank you for $5, John. Since DJI released the Mavic Air 2, do you think we'll also see a refresh of the FPV goggles this summer? John, my estimate is that DJI refreshes most of their products about every 18 months. Based on that, the time frame for a DJI FPV refresh would be about February, March. It came out in August of 2019. So we're looking at about a March time frame if that 18-month product cycle holds true. Now, I don't know. Maybe they won't, but that's the only evidence we have. Calabrese 221 says, Joshua, I was flying at my local field with 2 people flying Mavics. My video was getting snowy, but the snow was like digital lines across my screen. Yep, that is 100% right. That's Wi-Fi, Calabrese. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, okay. Here it is. It's coming. It's the coronavirus. No. This is going to get flagged. This is going to get flagged. Watch. If I say that word enough times, it will get flagged. So, that's Wi-Fi. No, it's not, because Wi-Fi makes... Well, anyway, that is Wi-Fi. That's what it is. The Mavic uses Wi-Fi for control, or it uses some other kind of digital... Mavic doesn't use Wi-Fi, does it? No. That's the other one. Yeah, they can cause interference, digital lines across the screen. That's 100% true. I did know that. And if you didn't know that, now you do. Robocop, thank you for $5 in the super chat. If I flash the wrong firmware onto my flight controller, now everything is screwed up. Sucks, dude. Guys, little tip from me to you. When you get a new flight controller, where's my flight controller? Well, we'll just use this one. When you get a new flight controller, the very first thing you should do is you got to plug it in right side up. And then, oh, come on. There we go. go to the CLI, type dump all, and then save to file. And save that somewhere. Every time you get a new flight controller, do that. And then when you accidentally wreck your config, you'll have something to fall back on. And the number one most useful piece of information there is going to be this, which is your target. Oh, wrong freaking window. Is going to be your target. That tells you what flight controller you're using. And that's the information that Robocop needs but doesn't have. So now Robocop is left to guess. So Robocop's got the HDL RC F428. So the first thing I would do in this situation is I would look up the HDL RC F428. See, I really was at Get FPV buying those Crossfires. I didn't actually check out yet though. HDL RC F428. We're gonna try to. Oh, it's discontinued. That sucks. We're going to try to find like a manual or some other indication. So let's search for manual. 0. Damn. That sucks. Oh, no, it doesn't have the target name. Shoot. Well, it doesn't seem to say the target name anywhere. All right, let's try this. HLRC F428 target. Omnibus. Oh, here. Omnibus F4 target. Someone's asking about this. Usually that's what they use. The other thing we can do is we could look at a review of it, and maybe the reviewer goes in and shows us how to set up the quad like this. HLRC XJB Betaflight setup. So, oh my god, you guys didn't hear that. So here's a video where this guy is flashing it and stuff. Connecting to your quad, enable expert mode, initial backup of stock settings. Bingo! So this guy has an XJB flight controller, and he's going to go in and back it up. Okay, bingo. This is it. This is the information we need. Assuming he's using the the 428, it's Omnibus F4. Okay, so that is consistent with what we saw in the race day quad or the RC groups thread. So I think it is Omnibus F4. Robocop. That's what I'm going to go with. What's confusing Robocop is that if we actually go look in the firmware, no, stop, disconnect. If we go look in the firmware flasher, let's zoom in there for a second. I think there are some HDLRC targets. Yeah. So here's a bunch of HDLRC targets. You would think it was one of these, but I don't think it is. I think it's Omnibus F4 based on that information. That is how I go about answering your question when you ask me what target it is. I would flash Omnibus F4. Number 1, check the product page. Check the manual. You never know. Number 2, search for the word flight controller target. And number 3, find some YouTuber who reviewed it or did a setup guide with it and try to catch it on their screen. That's the workaround. It's true, Joshua Owen. I have not checked out that cart yet. I didn't think it would be very respectful of y'all's time to sit there with it in my cart while I check out. So I'm not going to do it. But Wilder FPV, thank you for $2 super chat. Is there a wildfire update? Mine is garbage. Ouch. Sorry for laughing at your pain, Wilder. I don't think there's been a firmware update for the Foxeer wildfire. I don't think they've released a firmware update. I would expect that they would be working on a firmware update because it feels to me like the interface for the wildfire is very similar to the way the Achilles used to be. And I've wondered if they hired the guy who used to make Achilles or still does. So he should be doing firmware updates. But as far as I know, there has not been a firmware update for the wildfire. I'm sorry yours is garbage. I thought it performed okay. It didn't perform at like TBS Fusion levels. But the unanswered question about all products in general is what's the quality level? A lot of times the quality is very wide. Some are very good, some are very bad. And if you got a bad one, you may just be out of luck. Hero Psycho in the Discord confirms Robocop that Omnibus F4 is the correct target. Vince Meyer, thanks for $5. No question. Michael Blanchard, thank you for $20. No question. Wow. Big super chats tonight. Thank you, Michael Blanchard, for $20. Sean Winder, thank you for $5. Can I use my favorite USB controllers and laptop in place of a traditional radio? You cannot. For Flight Sim, yes. For Flight Sim, you can. You can use a USB controller, but it's going to be crappy. I recently downloaded a DCL simulator to try it out, and for whatever reason, and don't take this, it's probably my fault or like, I don't know, but like I very quickly tried to get my controller working and it wasn't working. And I was like, just screw it. I'm just going to use a controller. I'm just going to use like a USB game controller. It was so flippin' hard. I ended up like pinching like this to try and make really light, little precise movements. The throttle recenters, that's bad. You fly so much worse with a game controller. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to practice in a sim, that you use an actual RC controller. But you can do it with like Xbox control. I don't have a PlayStation, so I don't know for sure. But Xbox 360 controllers, you can just plug them into your computer and they're a game controller. Well, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have bought these if I had known that. I bought these so I could play some game with my son that needed a controller on PC. Xbox controllers just plug in. I'm pretty sure PlayStation do too. So if you need to fly on a simulator, you can, but it's much, much worse. Joshua Owen, thanks for $2. What's going on with your Beast class? I don't know. It's right there behind me. Nothing wrong. It fell down from the wall. The hook fell down. So got to get that hook back up. But I flew it recently. I flew it in my Insta360 video. Chris Tuttle, thank you for $10 in the super chat. Is there a website or tool you've used to calculate prop size or pitch? Yeah. So Chris, here's the tool you're asking for. Oh, crap. Oh, I'm blanking. eCalc. That's it. I got it. I haven't used this in forever. That's why. So the tool you're looking for is eCalc. The website is ecalc.ch. Ecalc.ch. And hang on. And it has tools for estimating motor and prop for quad multirotors, airplanes, etc. I have to tell you, it's better for airplanes than it is for quads. And it's better for big quads than it is for like micros and acro freestyle ones. But if you want to, you could use it. I think if you really want to figure out what a good build is, you're much better off going to a website like rotorbuilds.com and looking at what other people have built and just emulating them. Because a lot of the time, you just need to test different things and try different things. That the mathematical calculations don't really help you very much. Crazy, 2 more super chats. Crazy Tech, thank you for €5. When I throttle up, my OSD starts flickering. Yeah, so it's electrical interference from the ESCs and the motors. That's the answer. Now, how do you fix it? And the problem is that there isn't one single good fix. You say in your super chat that the camera is powered by the 5-volt output on the VTX. That actually is one of the things you can do. It's got to be really bad if that's happening. You can try powering it from a different 5-volt regulator or from VBAT. Most cameras will take VBAT. You basically just have to try a whole bunch of things and see which ones make the electrical noise better, which ones make it worse. So, yeah, move to a different voltage source. Move the ground wires together. In other words, take the camera and the VTX ground wire and twist them together and solder them to the same place. SMA connector. If your video transmitter has an SMA connector, the SMA connector touching the frame can cause video noise. There are a ton of things that can cause video noise, and you just have to work your way through one by one. Eric Mangus, thank you for $10. About the Blue Angels video. Yeah. The Blue Angels video is referring to that video that you may have seen of somebody with a quadcopter flying way too close to the Blue Angels as they flew over the city. He says, with DJI, you can't fly above 400 feet. Well, what if you're on a kayak and an aircraft carrier decides to turn 50 feet in front of you? Are we going to demonize the kayaker? Eric, I see what you're getting at. I'm gonna address this question. And I might normally, like, not, but you did give the $10 super chat, so I don't want to just, like, blow you off. Here's the thing. The Blue Angels didn't just randomly show up one day, unexpected. Like, here's the real thing. It is your responsibility, legally, it is your responsibility to avoid all manned traffic. That's a fact. Now, I guarantee you that the FAA will say, you should have known that the Blue Angels were flying in the area, and I don't give a crap if they're above 400 feet or below 400 feet. I don't know. By the way, you're assuming that he was flying a DJI quadcopter, which I don't think we know. You're assuming he was below 400 feet. You're assuming the Blue Angels were... I mean, I've heard that the Blue Angels don't fly below, 400 feet or whatever for that very reason. So there's a whole lot of assumptions in your question. But if we get to the meat of your question, if you are flying somewhere where you have a right to be and the situation changes such that it's no longer a good idea for you to be there, legally at least, you're obligated to give up the right of way. Now, morally or ethically, that's a tougher question, but I still am okay with the ethical principle that unmanned flight should give way to manned flight. Because if your quadcopter crashes, you're out some money and it sucks and you have a bad day. But if a manned aircraft crashes, people die. So I just don't see any argument where it is okay for that guy to have been there. Especially because he and everybody else freaking knew that the Blue Angels were going to be flying in that area. Like, it's not even a gray case where, like, you should have checked the website and seen that there was a no-fly zone that got set up that morning. Oh, I didn't. Oh, well, screw you for not being up to date. The whole reason he was up there was because he wanted to catch the Blue Angels flying. He was intentionally approaching the area. So there's just no justification for that video. You're setting up this hypothetical scenario where you're just doing your thing innocently and suddenly some military asset comes driving by. Okay, maybe. Maybe I have some sympathy and you're like, but that's not what happened. So, yeah. But I guarantee you that if you are, here's the practical, there's a philosophical, ethical, hypothetical situation we could argue about, and then there's the practical outcome. If you are flying and an aircraft carrier comes 50 feet in front of you and you don't land your damn drone as fast as humanly possible, you are at serious risk of getting some attention that you don't want to get. Now, is that fair? Is that right? I don't know, but at the end of the day, that is the outcome, and you need to be aware of that. Vince, I hope you got your $10 worth out of that, Eric Mangus. Vince Meyer, thank you for $5 in the super chat. What's your opinion on the 3-inch Gecko frame and quads of the same size? I really dig the 3-inch. The 3-inch toothpick and the 3-inch, I'd like to think of it as the Acrobrat style that I think started, I think Umagod with the 3-inch Acrobrat started the kind of freestyle heavy 3-inch. I think they're both a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of them. They fly almost as good as a 5-inch and are just a lot of fun. And sometimes they're even under 250 grams. Paul Clement, thanks for $5. Hillbilly FPV, thanks for $5. This is the last super chat before we move on. You're welcome to keep. I'm going to keep doing super chats, but just a little later in the stream. Would not want to discourage super chats. Hillbilly FPV, thanks for $5. In the Betaflight GPS failsafe settings, which sanity check setting is the safest and why? Have you tested GPS failsafe? Hillbilly, I have tested GPS manually, but I have never tested GPS failsafe. I don't trust Betaflight's failsafe, Betaflight's GPS rescue, because the problem is not that it will do something bad like make your quad fly to the moon. The problem is that if any of the sanity checks fails, it will just disarm and your quad will fall out of the sky. Well, that's what it was going to do anyway, I guess. It's just like, I would rather try and fly at home, or I don't know. I wish that Betaflight would give you a warning if a sanity check was failing at this exact moment. einav will say, not ready or whatever. Betaflight just, at the moment that you activate GPS rescue, I guess I'm about to find out if a sanity check is failing. But I don't think it's a good idea to disable the sanity checks, because then anything could happen. Alrighty. What are the sanity checks? Asks Wickline72. So the problem is when Betaflight is implementing GPS rescue, but Betaflight is really not a very mature autonomous flight firmware. So if you look at something like ArduPilot, they have a lot of practice implementing autonomous flight. And so the way that Betaflight handles it is, if at any time anything goes remotely wrong while it's doing GPS rescue, it just disarms. It's like, forget it. It would rather just drop out of the sky than take a chance that it is flying into a puppy's face, right? And so sanity checks can include an abrupt change in position, a shock to the accelerometer. If you lose satellites, you go from 8 satellites down to 6, disarm. And those are all the sanity checks. And the problem is that Betaflight doesn't have reliable access to enough sensors to do autonomous flight safely. So it's kind of doing its best, but it does it pretty badly. mochifpv wants to know if RXSR receivers are coming flashed with ACCST 2.0 firmware on them. Not as far as I know, Mochi. I don't know what's coming on them, but I don't think they're shipping with 2.x yet. I would expect to see FreeSky make that change soon, but not yet. Let's see. Can I program Betaflight and einav at the same time? I don't know about that, Mike. You can only have one firmware on your flight controller at the same time. You can only have one at a time. You can't have them both at the same time. Doghouse FPV wants to know about disabling the 5-volt regulator on your flight controller to remove a potential source of electrical noise from being right next to the gyro. That's an interesting idea, Doghouse. I haven't heard of anybody doing that. Wickline wants to know if I would recommend einav for long-range build with GPS. einav is really good on airplanes. It's okay on quads. If you really are serious about long-range, I think you should be looking at ArduPilot. Get a Pixhawk flight controller. Or people have even told me, and I haven't looked into this, but people were telling me in the comments of my video that there's a way to run ArduPilot on Betaflight F7 flight controllers, which I don't know how that would work, but I think if you're serious about long range, ArduPilot is a really, really mature firmware that's been doing that for a long time. It can do waypoints, it can do like proper return to home, auto landing, all that stuff. einav is better than, I wouldn't fly Betaflight for long range, because if you fail safe, you're done. It doesn't have a reliable enough return to home, loiter, none of that stuff. einav kind of has some of that stuff, and ArduPilot can totally do it. ArduPilot is really bad at flying, says DJ Pop. Well, that's true. But if you're doing long range, then the assumption is that you aren't doing acro. Maybe that assumption isn't true. Stu, I would not necessarily assume that the 5-volt BEC on a flight controller is linear. I would think that the 3.3 volt is going to be linear, and that's actually what the gyro is powered off of. But the 5-volt BEC is usually switching, I think. So maybe you could clean up the gyro noise by switching from a switched 5-volt regulator on board the flight controller to a linear 5-volt regulator off the flight controller. Yeah. Doghouse FPV Squishy says you'd also have to successfully tap into the input of the 3.3 volt. Squishy, in most flight controllers, as far as I know, the 3.3 volt is fed from the 5 volt. So if you power the flight controller from 5 volts, the 3.3 volt will still work. Gaptooth Granny, thank you for $5 Canadian. Regarding the Blue Angels, in Canada, it would be a CYRM airspace, military airspace. That drone pilot's about to do a lot of explaining soon. Yeah, I guarantee. Like, I guarantee, what is it? The no-fly zone, the FAA no-fly zone. A notice to airmen, an NTM? NTA? What is it? I guarantee that there was a no-fly zone in that area. Like, I guarantee. Like, how could there not be? So I guarantee that guy was breaking regulations by flying. No question. Sean, now I'm afraid to say your name. Sean Winder. Damn it. How did I say it? It says, thanks for getting my name right. NODAM. Thank you. Notice to Airmen. NODAM. That's it. I just got my 107 revoked. Or a TFA, a temporary flight restriction. A TFR. There you go. So there would have been a TFR, which would have been published via a NOTAM. And that guy was obligated to have known about that. Which is why I don't think he was flying a DJI. Because if he had been flying a DJI, the DJI would have said, you can't fly right now. What, are you kidding me? Right? Surely. Sean, thank you for $5 more. I have a precision joystick, throttle stick, rudder pedals from years of flight simming. Is there any USB transmitter I can use with a laptop? Any of the OpenTX RC controllers can be used with a laptop. So just take your pick. FreeSky Tyrannus, Jumper, Radio Master, they can all be used with a laptop as a game controller. That's just baked in. If you want to use your precision joystick, throttle stick, and rudder pedals, that's a little different. I think it's best to just use the same controller you're going to use in real life. Do you think the Beta FPV 95X will switch to the Nebula cam? Asks Duck My Squee. Thank you for $2 New Zealand dollars. I don't know. I mean, it seems like that would make a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it would save them weight. Burritos Yum Yum. Thanks for $2 in your super chat. Gaptooth Granny. Thanks for $5. And Remy Tim asked about sanity checks, but we got that. It's Blunty says he can't find a NOTAM, a TFR, or NOTAM for the flight the Blue Angels did, but I could be looking in the wrong place. It's Blunty, you're not the first person to suggest that there may not have been one, although that's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that there wasn't something that said, don't go up in the air, you dopes. Squishy suggests that Sean is asking about joysticks because he wants to use his existing controllers through 2.4 gig. I don't know about that, Squishy. I'm not sure. 507 RC suggests that we look at the Beta FPV light radio for simulator. Let's pull that up on the old screen. The Beta FPV light radio. This is a $40 radio, and it's, you know, like, I feel like if you're going to get into the hobby, you probably should think about spending a little more than this on your first radio. But this one isn't bad, especially for $40. And if you said you were going to get it just for simming, it's not bad. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of the game controller form factor. I like it for playing video games, but for some reason, when I need the precision control on the sticks, my hand gets tired pretty fast and it gets kind of cramped up. But for $40, if you want to practice on a simulator, this is a great choice. It's 100% true. Yeah, Sean, I can't. Me and the chat are all wondering if you're trying to fly the quad with your simulator controls. If you were to do that, the thing is, these simulators, anything that shows up in the operating system as a game controller, it's no special drivers. It's just a game controller. But it's possible that like your flight, your yoke is one, your pedals are another, and the flight sim software knows how to deal with it. These guys will only look at one joystick at a time. So if it doesn't all present as like one joystick with a bunch of different controls, it's not going to work with an RC simulator. The Gstip is a new patron. Gstip, if you really want to stand out as a patron, you got to get in the Discord. I'm going to answer all your question, but I might have missed your question. Wouldn't want to do that. Gstip says, I have a Diatone Taycan 6S bind and fly. The motors spin on arming. That's what they're supposed to do. With the D-Shot 600, min throttle is no longer available. That's because they've changed it from min throttle to idle percent. It's the same setting. It's just a percent instead of a ppm value. I adjusted the throttle percent, but no joy. You're trying to get the motors to stop spinning on arming? So I would officially not recommend that you do that. It's if you make the motors stop spinning when you lower your throttle to 0 when you're flying, the quad will just fall out of the air and disarm. Well, it won't disarm, but the motors will stop. The motors spin when you arm. They stop spinning when you disarm. That's a safety thing as well. It lets you know that the quad is armed. I've seen people with quads where the motors don't spin when you arm. It'll be armed. You'll land. You'll think it's disarmed. You'll go to pick it up or go near it. You'll bump the throttle. Boop, it spins. Having the motors spinning when the quad is armed is really what I think you should do. Now, having said that, I will now answer your question. And the answer to your question... Oh, I got to plug this quad back in. Hold on. What you want to do, Gstip, is go to Configuration, and you want to enable motor stop. Don't jack with the motor idle percent. Leave that alone. Just enable motor stop. Put the idle percent back the way it was. But don't. I don't think you should do that. But if you insist on doing it, that's how to do it. Somebody in the chat has mentioned that RGPilot does support D-Shot. Good. I don't know. Yep. I mean, if you... Yeah, you also... Good point. Props off and PyFPV. You also need to disable air mode. Because air mode will override that setting. Herbie M87 asks, is it possible to convert FCC to LBT? What Herbie is referring to is the region of your controller. So if you have a controller like a Tyrannus or a Jumper, it has a region, whether it's FCC region for the United States and most of the world, or LBT region for the European Union. And that region restricts what it can do with its radio, like output power restriction. It is possible to convert a radio with FreeSky ACC-ST radios. You flash different firmware to the XJT module. With the Axis radios, there is a Lua script that you download, and it will change the region. So you can change the region. But I am obligated to tell you that it is not legal to change the region to another region that you're not in. People from the European Union sometimes flash their radios to FCC region because it gives you higher output power. It's illegal. QuadX in the Discord wants to know, is there a way to make a shortcut to the Betaflight Lua PID tuning on the Jumper T16? Like in Tyrannus, you can access the Lua script by holding down the page key. You cannot do that. QuadX, in newer versions of OpenTX, the Lua script has been moved to the Tools menu. And in OpenTX 237, they actually have changed the tools menu to be the first menu that comes up when you hold down the model key. So update to the latest version of OpenTX, and it won't run the Lua script, but it'll put you in the tools menu, and you'll be able to run the Lua script relatively quickly. Martin asks, if I bought a micro bind and fly, is there a way I can know what the receiver is? Like, what about the receiver do you want to know, Martin? What region? What firmware version? What's the Lua page for then? I don't know, but it doesn't. The Lua page doesn't work in. It started back in the X10, which is what the T16 is based on. The page key doesn't open the Lua page. Yeah. Martin wants to know if his receiver allows access or what protocol it uses. Well, Martin, you're going to make that decision when you order the quad. If you order it with the receiver pre-installed, you're going to order a certain receiver, and the receiver that you order is going to determine what protocol it uses. Let's see here. Do you recommend buying a 6S quad, but running it on 4S when you're first starting out? Abhishek Kini, that's a fine idea. Using a 6S quad on 4S will actually reduce the power to a point where it's a little more controllable. I'm not saying like I'm recommending everybody run out and do this, but it's an okay idea. A 1900 kV motor on 4S still has probably more power than a beginner really wants. As an experienced pilot, I found 1900 kV motors on 4S to be completely flyable. If you go full throttle, you'll notice that you're lacking a little power. But for a typical sort of swishy freestyle, it was fine. I think that's an okay idea. But here's the thing. You're going to buy a shitload of 4S batteries, then you're going to outgrow them in a few months, and then what are you going to do? So I would say buy a 6S quad, buy 6S batteries, and then just use a throttle scale. Betaflight has a command line option that lets you scale the throttle down so that you have less power. And that's actually the direction I would go. Buy a 6S quad, run it on 6S batteries, and just throttle scale if you want a little bit less power. It's not that big of a difference, to be honest. 6S versus 4S. KVKV says, when using two pairs of goggles with the DJI system, will they both show the custom OSD? No, only the pilot shows the custom OSD, not the audience. Rebel says, when flying my drone, every few seconds it flicks the drone to the side for a split second. No throttle movement, just hovering. Everything is tight. Rebel, this is gyro noise. Gyro noise, vibration, most often affects the yaw axis. I don't know why that is exactly, but when you have too much gyro noise or vibration, you'll get little ticks on the yaw axis. Now, what's the fix? That's much harder to predict. It could be any number of things. If the flight controller is not soft mounted, you're going to want to soft mount it. If you don't have a capacitor on the quad, add a capacitor. If it is an iFlight flight controller with dual gyros, one thing you could do is go to the configure. Oh, I have it up right here. Oh, yeah. Go to the configuration tab in Betaflight. And right here, the gyro Excel, it's on a iFlight, it's going to say both. You can change it from both to first. And if you have a bad gyro, it'll stop. You have two gyros. You can change to just use one. And if you have a bad gyro, you'll stop using it. Those are a couple things you can try. Ooh, Josiah J. Hang on, Josiah. Josiah J's got an updated stinger for us. Hold on. Let's try this out. Hang on, I gotta put this in my let's see here. Now I gotta go to scene transitions. I gotta add a new scene transition, a stinger. All right, hang on. Oh, that name's already in use. Okay. Stinger 2, video file. Okay. Transition point. What should that be? Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, hang on. Something right. That's 4-3. No, that's something right with that stinger. What have I done wrong? I like the stinger. I like it better. It's faster. But it appears to be 4-3. Josiah, render that out 16:9. Okay. We'll go back to the cut. Silas Wojcik. Silas. Wow. I really struggle to sound out Polish names. Silas, I have been answering emails. I answer about 80 emails yesterday. I emailed you the other day. I haven't gotten a reply. I don't know about that, man. I like sometimes people send me an email and they're like, "Hey, just want to let you know that there's this video out here that you should see." Like, I may not have replied to that. What did you ask me, Silas? Oh, there you are, silaswojo@gmail.com. 12 hours ago. We talked 5 days ago, Silas. But no, I haven't. You emailed me 24 hours ago, but I haven't gotten to your email yet. So that's all. Sometimes if the question is a little more involved, it takes me a little longer to get to it. Have I been answered? It's 24 hours of response. It just speaks to how quickly I normally respond to emails, I guess. A simple response wants to know if we're going to get telemetry set up in the einav beginner series. Here's the problem with that simple response. einav doesn't support soft serial. Well, I take that back. It supports soft serial, but I talked to Pavel Spikowski, and he said that if you run soft serial, it can screw up the SPI connection to the compass. And he strongly recommended that we not run soft serial. So at that point, we can't have telemetry on an F4 flight controller unless we do the uninvert hack on the receiver. But the Jumper R1 receiver, no one has documented how to do the uninvert hack on it. So we are not going to get telemetry because the only way to get telemetry with that flight controller and that receiver would be to run soft serial, and Pavel said not to do it. The video keeps lagging. I also am seeing YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I also am seeing some indication that it's lagging. I'm not seeing any dropped frames from my end, though, and I'm definitely not running OneDrive or anything, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Jimmy Fleming, thank you for a $2 super chat. When will the Bardwell F7 be completed? So, as you may know, if you've been following along with the drama of the Bardwell F7, the current status is that we have a run of about 100 prototypes that have come off of the assembly line, and they're being shipped to the United States, and someday they'll get here. Once we get them, that's going to be our sort of public beta test. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be handled, but that's what we're going to do. Hang on one second. Sean Winder, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I want to be a pilot someday, but now I want to fly RC helis and quads in a more immersive sense from a pilot's perspective using my USB controllers. Yeah, I see. Well, I mean, you're going to want, I mean, that you're just talking about simulators, though. I think, are you wanting like a 2.4 gig control, but with your existing stuff? I'm not sure what you're asking is anything I'm actually good at, my friend. I'm not sure I can help you with this one. So, yeah, Jimmy, going back to Jimmy's question about the JBF7, whenever it gets to the United States, then we will have a few to test. Obviously, with about 100 of them coming, we're going to need some people to enlist to help us test them. And I hope that we can get some public, get them distributed a little bit. But the actually sort of being on sale is not something that is going to happen for a little while longer. So so obviously, if they show up, it takes a couple weeks to show up, right? Now they show up. Now they get sent out. It's going to take another couple weeks to test them, make sure that they're good. Then we place an order for the actual first retail order. And then that all has to happen. So we're still a little ways out. But Boshua Jardwell in the Discord wants to know if we can see a picture of the layout. Yeah, I'll get that. I've showed that before, but... Mitch Rain, yes, the JBF7 will have native DJI support. It will have a plug for the DJI controller and a regulator that can handle it. Hang on. Let me get a picture for you. So this is... Nope, my bad. This is the layout of the JBF7. Let you look at that for a minute. Loco Man 2424, thank you for $10 in the super chat. Hey Joshua, I'm the one with the receiver binding, but not showing it's receiving anything from my QX7. Your last message helped. Oh yay! Betaflight shows it's receiving data, but still no motor movement. Well, Loco Man, I really appreciate the super chat. I thank you for your $10 donation. I think we should keep talking about this in email or wherever it is we're talking about it. We got your receiver being picked up by your flight controller. Now we got to get your quadcopter arming. I'm totally confident we're going to do it, but probably not here on the live stream. Thank you, Arthur, for 5 Swiss francs. I like your Fusion 360 video. Thank you. I was really proud of that. It was a lot of work. I would like to see more of that. No 3D printer reviews, really, the 360 stuff. Okay. Well, you know, I did 3D printer reviews because I was interested in getting into 3D printing. Sorry you didn't like those. QuadX Multi-Rotor, thank you for $5.49 Canadian. Please look at my Discord question. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to go back a minute. That was like 15 minutes ago. QuadX Multi-Rotor. Can you re-ask your question in the Discord, man? Where's QuadX Multi-Rotor? Nope. Oh, here he is. QuadX. Is there a way to make a short... No, I got that. I got that. Was that your... Oh, I got it spontaneously without even looking at his super chat. Fantastic. Thank you for your... Thank you for your donation, QuadX. John Solo in the Discord wants to know any knowledge about the Race Day Quads warranty program yet. Yeah, this was in my news last week, I believe. Race Day Quads has a new warranty program. Where is it? Race Day Quads. No, where's the warranty? Surely it's here. Really? Extended warranty info. There we go. So Race Day Quads has, I don't know how anyone agreed to this, but some company has agreed to sell Race Day Quads customers insurance on the products that they buy. Okay. So when you purchase this product through Race Day Quads, you can opt to buy a warranty, kind of like the Best Buy warranty, right? And, oh, it's an extended warranty. I see. That's a little different. The reason I say that is because, let's say AKK has a 2-month warranty on their VTX. You get the VTX and it dies. Well, AKK, like, they're going to help you. Like Banggood is going to help you. Come on. So, raised A quads will probably help you out if you have a problem, if you get a bad product. But if you just blow it up by smashing it into a tree, the manufacturer's warranty is going to kick in first. And the manufacturer is just going to tell you to pound sand. And then the extended warranty doesn't apply. So you have to think about it. This isn't quite as good as I first thought it was going to be, because it only is supplemental. But we'll have to see how this goes. Like a company like Fat Shark is going to do right by you. But a lot of these companies, I mean, some of these companies have a 1-month warranty, in which case you're probably fine. Anyway. Yeah, Raised A Quad's warranty program. How about that? Are all PH2 connectors the same? Asks Lucky22 FPV. No. Some PH2 connectors are made of stamped metal, and some are made of either, I think they're solid pins. The solid pin ones are better. They're not all the same. Let me make sure I get these super chats before I miss a couple. Chris Mel 9000, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I've got the original Tiny Hawk with the RX loss problem. Can this be fixed with a new receiver installed on the S-Bus? Yeah, Chris Mel, if you got the Tiny Hawk with the RX loss problem, I think turning telemetry off may fix it. Changing from D8 to D16 or vice versa may fix it. If you really get to a point where you can't fix it any other way and you say, I'm going to put a third-party receiver on, I think that the flight controller does have the ability to take an S-Bus input. I'd want to check the pinout of the receiver and find out about that, though. So, let's see here. Let's look at this pinout. See if we can... Oh, that's Amazon. That's not very helpful. Oh, it might be more helpful than I thought. I mean, surely this has an S-Bus input, right? I know people put external receivers on these. So I'm like 99% sure that it has an S-Bus input, but I kind of want to check. So we've got RX1, RX2, TX2, TX1. Where is S-Bus input? RX1, is RX1 got inversion or not? Ah, phooey. I'm like so sure that it has that it takes S-Bus input. I'm not 100% sure. All right, we're caught up. Thank you to Squishy7 for sharing this. This may help Sean out. I'm going to paste this link in the chat. This is a cockpit ground station setup for flying FPV with a 42-inch TV. Yikes. That's amazing. Is this what you're looking for, Sean? There you go. Ah, Whitmead says the S-Bus input for the Tiny Hawk is on top of the board. Okay, so now we know it does support S-Bus input. Lucky22 says, my problem is I got an ISDT UC4 charger and the PH2 connectors get stuck inside and I can't pull them out. I mean, I've had PH2 connectors that were a little hard to pull out, but you got to just kind of pinch them and grab them and pull them out. I mean, I'm not sure that like the ISDT connectors are like defective or anything. All right, here we go. We're going to try this. We're going to try this Stinger again. We got a re-render of the Stinger. Hang on. Let's see. JB Stinger. Remove that one. Okay. Now we downloaded Transition 3. Hang on. Okay. Now for this Stinger, we're going to go Properties. We're going to change the Transition 3, and we want the transition point at 300 milliseconds. Okay. Here we go. 500 milliseconds, my bad. 500 milliseconds. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, I like that. I especially like how the JB kind of change. The JB could be static, but it kind of just zooms in just a little. That's nice. I like that. All right, we'll see. We'll leave that for now. We'll see what the chat thinks. Damn right, I'm trying to get fancy. Thank you, Josiah J, in the Discord for making that for me. You just made it spontaneously. Thank you for that. Anonymous Platypus says, for under $60, what 4-in-1 ESC do you recommend? Oh, I should get back to my face. What 4-in-1 ESC for under $60? Anonymous Platypus. It's funny that you ask that because I have a website, fpvknowitall.com, which contains my ultimate FPV shopping list, which has all my product recommendations at any price point, almost any price point. And if we go right here, flight controller, ESC, motors and props, ESC. You want a 4-in-1, so let's just scroll down a little. Well, there's my... This is out of stock. We may not restock it before the freaking... I don't know when it's coming back. But you could get mine, sure. The Hobbywing X rotor, is that under... $60 is actually a fairly generous price point for a 4-in-1 ESC. You can get quality ones for that. X rotor Micro is very, very good. It's out of stock. Is it in stock anywhere? In stock. So Hobbywing X rotor... Oh, it's $70. Why is it... Okay. Well, $70 is more than 60. That's too bad. Oh, $50 back order. Amazon? $65. Is it in stock? I can't tell. That's a very good one. T-Motor F55 is also a very good one. It's not under $60 though. Yeah. Maybe need to get another budget ESC on this page. Yeah, probably should have another one because these two are really expensive, and then there's mine, but it's out of stock. Let's see. What is a good middle-of-the-road ESC at about the $50, $60 price point? I don't know. Let me throw it to the chat. Let me throw it to the chat. What do you think, guys? Good middle-of-the-road 4-in-1 ESC in the $40, $50 price point. Haki Tekin, do you recommend the CL1 kit for a beginner? Sure, absolutely. The Rotor Riot CL1 kit, good for a beginner. I don't see why not. Obviously, it's a 5-inch quad. It's going to be pretty powerful. Take it easy on it. Be safe. But, yeah, go for it. Let's see here. Doghouse wants to know if it's worth trying FreeSky OSD or Pixel OSD on Betaflight. I haven't tried it. I'm not a big fan of really super complicated on-screen displays. Like this is the Pixel OSD. Does this require the H7 flight controller, or does this require a separate piece of hardware? Which one is this? Yeah, it's cute. I don't know enough about it to say whether, oh, is it worth trying, or whether I would be excited about it. But it looks like it's the new graphical OSD, right? T. Simon in the Discord has the world's greatest noob question. How do I put on the props? T. Simon, I have a video about that. I will link it in the Discord for you. Oh, no. Botwell. You want result number 1 there, T. Simon. Let me get rid of that extra message. Regarding the pH connectors, he says, I ripped 2 leads out trying to get them out. The thing is, you shouldn't be pulling on the battery leads when you remove the connector from the plug. You want to kind of get your fingers on the pH connector itself. Don't be pulling on the battery leads. You will rip them out. They shouldn't be tight enough that you rip them out, but even if they are, you shouldn't ever be pulling on the wires. The Mamba F50 Pro, the Diatone Mamba F50, Yeah, got a lot of people recommending the Diatone Mamba. iFlight, going back to the question of the ESC. Diatone Mamba, Diatone has a pretty good track record. What are we doing here? I got something playing in the background. Sorry, you guys didn't hear that. iFlight, not a bad choice. Does iFlight make, like, I haven't got an opinion yet on whether iFlight ESCs are better than average. I don't think they're worse than average, but are they better than average? That's tough. Diatone Mamba has a pretty good track record. I think I'm going to have to go with the Diatone Mamba F50. Diatone Mamba. We got a, is it in? Oh, $45. That's a good price. In stock. Bingo. Here we go. This is the one. 4-in-1 ESC under $60. Me and the chat together are going to go with the Diatone Mamba F50 Pro. I will make a note to add that to my shopping list just based on this extensive market research alone. Piratic in the Piratic leaves a super chat. Thank you for $5. Any more 3D printer videos in the pipeline? Yes, I have been so busy lately with the beginner build. I haven't been doing a ton of 3D printing. Like, those beginner builds take so much work to put that content out. But the next thing I'm going to do with the 3D printer is put BL Touch on my Sovol SV01. That's coming eventually. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze in a minute. So, any tips for fighting Jello? Asks Careful FPV. Yep, the number one best way to fight Jello. I mean, obviously build a mechanically sound quad, etc. But the final step in fighting Jello is to use the Diatone Mamba Pro. No, where'd that window go? No, yes. Use an ND filter, and the ND filter that I like the best is Camera Butter. An ND filter reduces the amount of light coming into your camera lens, and as a result, the shutter speed gets longer and you get more motion blur, and that kills Jello. I actually added Camera Butter to my website recently. The problem with ND filters is that actually using them can be difficult, just sticking them in front of the camera and so forth. But Camera Butter sticks on using a kind of almost like a gasket. And it'll stick on any camera, including a Hero 8, which doesn't have the normal ways of clipping on. So for killing Jello, that's a great way to think about it. You guys in the Discord think I'm plugging Camera Butter too much. I tell you why I'm plugging Camera Butter. I normally didn't use ND filters because they were too much of a freaking hassle. They were expensive, they were a hassle to use, or they had that stick-on film, which was kind of cheap and easy to use but crappy. And Camera Butter was the first one I found that actually sort of struck the right balance between price and ease of use. So now that I've discovered one that works for me, I'm like its biggest fan, and I'm just promoting it all the time. Everyone should know about this. Ricardo Pavao wants to know, can you mix two 4-in-1 ESCs of the same kind together if each has a burnt ESC? Yeah, Ricardo, if both ESCs are getting battery power and the signal wires go to the right motor, it doesn't matter. The flight controller doesn't know that they're two like separate 4-in-1s. You can do that. Camera Butter, Captain Sobchek says they're not durable. They break easily. I mean, the thing is, all of the ND filters, the film, like the window tint, okay, it doesn't break, but it's so hard to put on without bubbles. So let's just set that aside. I think all the ND filters, I mean, anything will break if you hit it. The weakness of the Camera Butter is that because it's got the gasket, like holding it on, it's just slightly separated from the lens. And then in a direct hit, it'll be a little more likely to break than if it was like flush with the lens. But the alternative is something like a Polar Pro filter, and the Polar Pro filters are like $30 a piece, and they're going to break too. So, I mean, my thinking is the camera butter costs like $8 a piece. It will break. Everything will break eventually, and at least when it breaks, you only out $8. That's what I would say. Yeah. Truls Dahl, thank you for 100 Norwegian kroner. Can you explain how the VTX switch function on the Hobbywing flight controller works? Is it 12 volt or 3.3 volt? The user manual and the wiring diagram are not clear about that. So Truls Dahl, the VTX switch function, I'm going to guess that it's used like a real pit board to switch the video transmitter on and off. It wouldn't make any sense for it to switch 3.3 volts because video transmitters don't run on 3 volts. So it just must be 12 volts, right? But let's take a look and see if we can sort of figure this out for you. X-Rotor Flight Controller F4G3 with OSD. Let's just go to the product page first of all. And let's read what it says about the VTX switch. Switch module of board load graphic transmission can use remote control to control switch of graphic transmission. Oh, sorry, you guys didn't see that. Now I was going to read that, and then I was going to look back at the camera. Can you guys hire an English speaker? Like, I don't want to be a hater. But, like, just pay some college student $50 to read your copy. Then be like, no, that's not. Like, it doesn't even have to be an FPV pilot. Like, I feel bad because, like, I mean, I don't speak any Chinese. And if I were to try to write Chinese, it would be way worse than that. Respect, mad respect. But you're like a company. You're like a professional. Hire somebody to check your copy. Come on. Anyway, all right. that's just really bad. So it switches the VTX power. Let's see if we can look in the manual. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on Hobbywing. Hobbywing makes great products and they're good people, but that's like just really an atrocious sentence. Like nobody even tried with that sentence. Okay. What do we got in the manual? Let's see if we can find switch, the word switch. How to use the VTX switch module. Bingo. No, can I not? Oh, there we go. Okay, so yep, we wired to ARCs. Your FC will. So there's got to be a power connector just for the video transmitter. Where's the video transmitter output? Where is the video transmitter output? It must be over here. Is it on the underside? Well, that's not labeled. What about in the manual? Can we learn from the manual? Oh, yeah, here we go. 3.3 volt VTX switch UART3RX connection pad. Wow. What the hell? So here's the confusion, isn't it? The confusion here is that we've got this jumper, UART3RX VTX switch 3.3 volt. What the F is that jumper supposed to be doing? Here we go. 3.3 volt VTX switch UART3 connection pad. Oh boy. Let's see if we can figure this out. 3.3 volt and VTX switch, or VTX switch and UART3RX, is affiliated welding spot. Short connection is connected, otherwise disconnected. When neither is connected, it is completely disconnected. So it feels to me like what they're saying is that there's a pad that can be used for either 3.3 volts or UART3RX. Wow, this is so confusing. Under default status, VTX switch connects to 3.3 volt. That doesn't make any sense. The 3.3 volt output has to be for like a Spectrum receiver? But that would be over here with the receivers. This... Camp Robber says, I think by... Oh, Camp Robber. Camp Robber says if you connect it to 3.3 volt, it means it's always on. Oh, that's got to be it. Camp Robber, I think you nailed it. Camp Robber gets a gold star. So here's the deal. Why UART 3 RX then? Oh, I see. Okay. I think we got it. So, maybe you don't want to switch your video transmitter on or off. Maybe you just want it to be on all the time. In order to make that happen, you're going to feed a constant 3.3 volts into the transistor that switches the video transmitter on and off. So, what they should have labeled this is VTX switchable or always on. That's what they should have labeled this as. This jumper right here. What this jumper is doing... Stop. Well, you can zoom in. Really? What are we doing? Zoom in. Zoom in. Oh, my God. Why are we not zooming in? Oh, man. Oh, wow. This is bad. Can I zoom in? There we go. Boom. Okay, sorry. My PDF is not doing what I want it to. We'll go back to my face. The 3.3 volt means that your video transmitter is always on. The UART 3 means that your video transmitter is controlled by the pin IO function, which they then tell you to assign to UART 3 RX. Because you're like, so this is control. That's what that is. Wow. Truls Dahl, I definitely just earned all 100 of those Norwegian kroner. Did you follow that? If you want the video transmitter on all the time, jumper it for 3.3 volts. If you want the video transmitter switchable via aux mode, jumper it for UART 3, and then it will be switchable after you follow step 6 in the manual, where you assign UART 3 RX to be the pin IO function. That is really bad labeling. That's hobbying. That's something. I'm glad I got there in the end. Thank you very much for the help. Thank you very much for the help. Everybody in the chat who is telling me if you jump 3.3 volt, it's always on. We finally got there. Yikes. Yeah, because they're like, well, maybe you don't want to go through the trouble of switching it on or off. So maybe you just would like to, but then you have to do the whole solder bridge BS, and your video transmitter doesn't power up. And that's bad. Yikes. That was really something. Yeah. Nick Sebring, exactly. Except, Nick, I think you may have gotten it backwards. Switchable bridge, the bottom two pads. Switchable bridge for UART 3. Always on bridge for 3.3 volts. That's the takeaway. Wow. That was really something. Like, why would they call it UART? Why would you ever have UART 3 and 3.3 volts together on the same jumper? That doesn't make any sense. And it's because the signaling level for these flight controllers is 3.3 volts. That's why. Okay. Well, let's move. Let's just forget that ever happened. That was a nightmare. Eric Mangus, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Thank you for $5 in the super chat. Yeah, Boyd, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Do I have a video to diagnose motor vibes in Betaflight? Does RPM filters affect the results? Yeah, Boyd, if you are using the motors tab sliders to spin the motors, then RPM filters doesn't apply. PIDs and filters don't apply when you're using the sliders in the motor tab. It just sends a throttle value to the motor, and that's it. Stefan in the Discord asks, is there any way to estimate what the current rating of an ESC is to get without somehow testing the motor for the max current draw? I mean, Stefan, there are calculators out there that if you give them a motor size and prop and kV, they will estimate the amps. They're not terribly accurate because there are so many factors that affect how many amps a motor is going to draw and how much thrust it's going to make. Really, bench testing is the only way to do it. But you can guesstimate. You can look at 2206, 2400 kV motors with 5-inch props, and you can see that they range from about here to about there, and you can get a sense, but there's not like a formula you can plug in. Somebody's got to do the bench testing at the end of the day. Okay. Ruhan Doshi wants to know, how can I tell what props would be the most efficient for my motor for a 5-inch quad? Not looking for really high pitch, just something that will maximize battery life. Ruhan, in general, the lower the pitch and the larger the prop, the more efficient it's going to be. So if you're going for 5-inch, then you're probably going to be looking at something like a 5 by 3.8 or 5 by 4.2. You need just enough thrust to get in the air, but then not that much more. As far as efficiency goes, though, it's another question, because what I've actually told you to do is just make less thrust, therefore you pull fewer amps. That's not efficiency. Efficiency is watts of thrust per gram, watts of power per gram of thrust. More efficient props are a lot harder to calculate. In general, if you want more efficiency, go to larger props. But taking a bunch of 5-inch props and saying which is the most efficient, that would require a lot of bench testing. It would be hard to estimate. Yeah, Boyd says, so what do I set in the motors tab? Well, Boyd, just go to the motors tab, take your props off, enable the I understand the risk props are off slider, and then just raise the sliders and you can spin the motors. But I'm not sure if that's really what you meant to be at. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. Jimmy Fleming, thank you for $5 in the super chat. What's the best setting for RPM filtering for Betaflight 4.2? Is it the same as in Betaflight 4.1? Jimmy, yeah, I would start with the same settings as in Betaflight 4.1. The only thing that's changed is the dynamic filter. The dynamic filter used to have presets labeled low, medium, and high. And when using RPM filtering, we would set that to low for reasons. Now they just have an actual frequency. So instead of setting the dynamic filter to low, you're going to set it to 350 hertz. But other than that, I would do the same thing in 4.2 with the RPM filters that I did in 4.1. DJ Pop suggests the S3 prop is really good for long flight times. He thinks it's 50-31 in pitch, and it's not very thrusty, but very good for long flight times. The other thing you could do is, like if you have a 5-inch quadcopter, you could start looking at like 5.5-inch props. Many 5-inch frames will take a 5.5-inch prop, and you'll get more efficiency that way. Joe Gray points out, Joe is also one of my patrons. Thank you for being here, Joe. That 5144s, that you're talking about the gem fans probably, 5144s have a higher prop load than 51466, which you wouldn't guess without testing. Yeah, there's really no way. You would think that the 51466 would have a higher prop load than 5144, but it's not necessarily true. It depends all about the design of the prop and everything. Yeah, Boyd wants to know about the gyro accelerometer refresh rate and scale. Do you mean the gyro and PID loop time, those rates? If you're using an F7, use 8K 8K. If you're using an F4, use 4K 4K. That's the short version. Crazy Russian Pilot. Can you design a TBS Oblivion frame? 40 USD is too much for plastic. Well, Crazy Russian Pilot, I agree with you that $40 is too much to pay for a lump of plastic. And I'll tell you what, Crazy Russian Pilot, you send me $3 and I will send you the exact same amount of plastic as is in the TBS Oblivion frame. Just I'll send you a lump of plastic. Oh, I see. So when you buy the TBS Oblivion frame, you're not just buying plastic, are you? You're buying an injection mold that costs tens of thousands of dollars to make. And you're buying the skills of a designer who designed the frame and you're buying the time of the people who flew the frame and went, this is bad, change it. And then after months and months, or maybe even years of testing and work, somebody pulled the trigger, they made the frame, and they sold it to you, and it costs $40. Sounds to me like you're getting a hell of a value. Gayton Hervowait, thank you for $5 Canadian. I know I mispronounced your name, and I do apologize. Why aren't there more motors or props for 1.5 or 2 millimeter shafts? I'm very limited building a DJI Air unit sub 253 inch. That's a great question, and I don't know the answer why there aren't more, but it probably comes back to there are relatively few people buying them, and the more people buying them, the more people will make them. By the way, can I say, Mike Bergman says the Oblivion's a wonderful frame. Crazy Russian Pilot, I am not actually like saying, oh, the Oblivion's a great frame. I'm not defending the Oblivion frame. I think when you look at the Oblivion frame and go, oh man, I don't want to pay $40 for that, I don't think you're actually crazy. But there's this idea, people look at a frame and they go, I'm not paying $50 for 2 sheets of carbon. That's 5 cents worth of carbon. Well, you're not paying for the carbon. You want carbon? Go buy a sheet of carbon. Oh, no, you want a quadcopter frame. Everybody looks at the raw materials that go into a frame, and they forget that there's a lot of time and effort and testing and investment in actually making that carbon the way it is. And that's what you're paying for. So that's why I was picking on you after that question. Herbie M87, thank you for €5 in the super chat. Is there anything I should be careful about when flashing Horus X10 Express into the LBT version? I mean, don't break it. You have to flash it to FreeSky OS, don't you? Before you can, that's the problem. With the X10, you have to put FreeSky OS back on it and then change the region and then put OpenTX back on it. So if you ever took FreeSky OS off and flashed OpenTX to it, you got your work cut out for you. I've never done it myself, so actually I couldn't warn you or tell you exactly how it goes. Good luck. Ellie Rodriguez, thank you for $5 Canadian. I ended up ordering the HDO2 and the Fusion. It should arrive this week. How can I know if it has the updated hardware? That's a very good question, Ellie. I think if you ordered it this week, I would hope that it has the updated hardware, but I couldn't be sure. I think you're going to have to reach out to TBS to find out, though, because I don't know if there is some marking on it that says what hardware version it is. I think you're going to have to reach out to TBS. Siati is in the chat. Siati in about 20 minutes is going to be streaming. I've been watching Siati's chats, and Siati is talking a lot about poop tonight. And I don't know why. I don't know if someone has taken over Siati's stream, or if Siati is, maybe he's drunk, or just feeling silly. But Siati's talking a lot about poop tonight. And Siati, that's why I'm not reading all your messages. Normally when you show up in the chat, I'm like, hey, Siati's here. And he's talking about poop. Okay, moving on. Just don't want you to take it personally that I'm not reading your chats or shouting you out. Truls Dahl, thank you for 100 Norwegian kroner. I have a TBS Unify that takes 5 volt. The manual says level signal input default 12 volt. I don't know what the hell that means, my friend. Can I still use the VTX switch, and where do I connect VTX Plus? So here's the thing, Truls Dahl. If you have a 5 volt Unify, do not give it anything more than 5 volts or you will risk damaging it. That level signal input default 12 volt, I don't know what that means, but that doesn't mean you can give a 5 volt Unify 12 volts. You will fry it. So then you got to get out your multimeter, because I don't know the answer to your question, but wherever you're going to solder the power wire, take your multimeter and test. And if it's not 5 volts, don't solder it there. So it may be that the Hobbywing flight controller only switches VBAT or only switches 12 volts. And if that's the case, then you can't do that function with that flight control, with that VTX. But just test with your multimeter if you're not sure. Test with your multimeter if you are sure. It's not a bad idea. All right. Seems like TBS Fusion is sold out everywhere, says Morris. Morris, earlier in the stream, go to the TBS Lounge Facebook group. It looks like TBS stuff is going to be coming back into stock at the TBS store within the next few weeks. As far as distributors go, it'll be a little longer, obviously, because they have to ship it. Doghouse FPV says, how do I make the crash detection and algorithm in Betaflight less sensitive or even disable it? I see how to disable runaway takeoff protection, but I want to eliminate the feature that automatically disarms on what Betaflight thinks is a crash. So Doghouse, the good news is that those are the same feature. Betaflight runaway takeoff prevention is designed to prevent flip outs when you try to take off with a motor spinning the wrong direction or something like that. But it also happens in flight. When you smack into an object and the quad flips out, the takeoff protection disarms. Now, the Betaflight devs aren't stupid. They knew that this would happen. And what they did is, when you raise the throttle past a certain point, takeoff protection disables itself, so that when you crash in flight, it doesn't disarm. Now, if that is happening to you, what that means is that you are not raising the throttle above the default threshold. I think the default threshold is either 20 or 25%, depending on which Betaflight version you have. So my guess is that you have a very powerful quad, and when you take off and you fly away, you are below that threshold and it's not disabling. The answer is to reduce that threshold. And in fact, I do this on all of my quads. There's that stinger again. I like that stinger. I think it's a good one. What I do for all of my quads is, hang on. Oh, look at me. I'm such a pro streamer. Look at me managing my oh yeah. Get runaway takeoff. So the parameter you want is runaway takeoff, deactivate throttle percent. Autocomplete is your friend here. You're going to want to lower that value down. And what that will mean is that it will take less throttle raise to deactivate this disarm feature. So I set that to 5%. I set that to 5% on all my quads. Now, the problem with that is that if you have a runaway situation and you arm the quad and you just punch the throttle to take off to the moon, you're going to exceed that deactivate percent before the quad figures out that anything's wrong, and you're going to flip out. So what I always do, and this is, I think everybody should do this, after you arm the quad, don't just go to the moon. Just briefly take your pitch and your roll stick and just go, just roll the quad a little bit around with the pitch and roll stick. And if it tries to flip out, then don't go to the moon. And that gives it a chance to try to flip out and catch it. No, Doghouse says, I want this disabled even if I'm at 100% throttle. Doghouse, you're not understanding how it works. Once the throttle exceeds the threshold, it is permanently disabled forever until you disarm again. You see what I mean? As soon as you go over that value, there's actually a time threshold too. It has to be above that value for a few seconds, and then it disables itself and it never turns itself back on again until you disarm, or maybe even until you change the battery. Well, Doghouse, if Betaflight is still disarming when you crash, even after you're flying for a while, do you see runaway on the screen? That's a sure sign that that's what's happening. Troy Casperson wants to know if a 20 amp ESC can handle a 2206 2480 kV on a 4-inch with 3S. Troy, 20 amps, I think you're okay on that one. Doghouse says he does not see runaway on the screen. Doghouse, do you have the warning OSD element turned on? If you don't, you should. That would tell you why it's disarming. If it's disarming, you should be getting a warning. And Betaflight, I think 4.0 put the warning OSD element on screen by default. I would maybe want to see some DVR or something. The question is, why is it disarming? Is it fail-safing? I don't know. It's a little trickier. Anytime it disarms itself. Yeah, good point. DJ Pop says, does the OSD say disarmed? That would confirm that it really was disarming. Doghouse confirms it says disarmed. So Doghouse, if auto crash detection was kicking in, it would say runaway. There is no feature in Betaflight that just spontaneously disarms. It's only the runaway prevention feature that could be doing that. So if it's saying disarmed, it means it thinks you flipped the switch. Yeah. It thinks you flipped the switch. I'm not sure why it would think that. Like if you fail-safed, it would say RX loss. I would probably want to check the DVR. I wonder if it's saying runaway really quick and you're not seeing it. I don't know. That's a tougher one. Daniel Bruslowski wants to know, he suggests that maybe the receiver is losing power. I think we would see RX loss in the OSD if that happened. Yaw recovery. Well, Ty suggests it's a bad switch on the controller, but then why would it happen only when he, like, crashes? It wouldn't happen only when he smacks the quad if it was a problem with the controller. We need more. There's some piece of information we're missing here, Doghouse. Maybe a black box log or a DVR would help. It's Blunty suggests the flight controller is resetting, but if the flight controller were resetting, then we'd see the Betaflight logo on screen, and I feel like Doghouse would have mentioned that. Perry Lovewhistle says, this is an interesting one. Let's guess that maybe we have a bad switch on the controller, and when you crash, you jerk or twitch, and it causes the quad to disarm. It's a little far-fetched, but not impossible. Sam, no, I don't think he has DJI goggles, Sam D. He said he sees disarmed. Do you have DJI goggles, Doghouse? It's a good point, Sam D. He would still see disarmed, but not the warning if he had DJI goggles. That's a good point. The arm disarm status is separate from the warning. That's a very good point. Somebody asking about the 3-inch behind me. This is the Catalyst Machine Works Massive Droner HD. Got the QuadX Vista in it. I'm going to be reviewing that this week. The Blaster video in Denver. Go watch. It's so good. What is that? I don't think I'm going to be able to find that. Oh, that's a good question. Lucky22. Lucky22 gave some news of the day. I said earlier in the stream that it's hard to do news on a Monday because nothing happens between Sunday and Monday, so I've already done all the news. But that's not true. Something happened that's very newsworthy. Emu Flight 0.3 released. And a whole lot of Emu Flight fans have been waiting for this. If you've been waiting for it, it is finally here. And that's some news at the end of the stream. All right, no problem. All right. Well, we are caught up on Super Chats. And it is 10 minutes to the end of the stream. Aaron Ciati is here in the chat. He is going to be streaming after me on his channel. Not on my channel. Give me a break. So if you're loving the stream and you want to keep it going, at 10 o'clock when I finish up, go over to Aaron Ciati's stream. And what are you doing tonight, Aaron? Let's see what he's doing. Michael O, how do you like the Foxier Pagoda antenna? So here, Michael, here's my opinion of the Pagoda antenna. Pagoda is an amazing antenna design, but it is very, very sensitive to the orientation and position and distance of the PCBs. So it's very difficult to make a very good pagoda without a lot of attention to detail. Little things like the dielectric constant of the coax. So if you change to a different type of coax, or you're using a PCB with a different dielectric, I like the word dielectric, a lot of things can change the tuning of the antenna. And then in order to make the antenna consistently requires a lot of attention to quality control. I hesitate, and I don't know anything about the Foxeer Pagoda, but I hesitate to buy pagoda antennas. Like if True RC made a pagoda or Alex Grieve made a pagoda, I'd be like, yeah, buy it, it's good. But when a company that is a little more focused on budget makes a pagoda, I'm a little more skeptical that they're going to be able to consistently put out the precision that a pagoda design requires. So it could be a good antenna, it could be a great antenna, but I would be a little worried that some would be good and some would be bad. There are other antenna designs that are more resilient to slight variances in manufacturing. And if you're going to buy cheap antennas, those are the ones that I would be focused on. Like, I'm a big fan of the Foxeer Lollipop. But the pagoda is pretty sensitive. So there you go. Ciotti is, let's see, Ciotti is doing a giveaway. Ciotti's been streaming every day for 2 weeks now. He's doing giveaways, a Q&A, and the ultimate allergy attack. What? The ultimate allergy attack. I'm not sure why I would show up for that, but okay. Giving away 3 different sets of motors. Nice. How's Ciotti doing over there? Ciotti, how's your subs doing, man? Ciotti has been... I did a stream with Ciotti at his house. I think that was your first stream, Ciotti, and you had such a great time. You were like, I'm going to start doing this. And ever since... Wow! Ciotti's up to 3.3 thousand subscribers. That's all. You're doing all right there, man. You're growing. Well, he's growing. It's really good, dude. Hero Psycho, what are you trying to get help with there, buddy? Oh. Thank you, Hero Psycho, for linking to that message about how to fix your ESCs if you're Flash Jazz Maverick and lose them. I appreciate that, man. Hero Psycho is one of the most active members of my Discord, and is would not be the same without him. I really appreciate it, you dude. Let's see. I love it when people solve their own questions. Like, sometimes I don't get to questions as quickly as you might think, and by the time I get there, they've answered their own question. This just happened in the Discord. David Tannard in the Discord had a quad flip out after a crash. He said, I'm taking it apart to see if any wires were loose. And then a few minutes later, he's like, oh, I found some loose wires. Problem solved. Yapsy FPV wants to know 3 reasons why my video is not good when I'm flying close. Just got new antennas and goggles. Yapsy FPV knows how to make a successful YouTube video. In fact, Yapsy, I love your idea so much. I'm writing it down. 3 reasons your video sucks. That is a banger right there. YouTube loves listicles. That's a great idea. So now let me answer your question. Why does your video suck even at close distance? Number 1, make sure you're on the right channel. Don't use auto scan. Manually set yourself to the right channel. Number 2, make sure you bought the right connector for your antennas. If you bought an RPSMA when you should have bought an SMA, it's not going to work. And number 3, make sure you're not in pit mode. Boom. Micah V, what's the Discord link? Where can I find it? In my Patreon. Go down to the video description. There's a link where you can sign up to give me some clink. Throw a couple bucks in my hat, and I'll answer questions and take your money and get fat. Oh. License to Drive says make sure the antennas are the same polarization. You're not wrong, License to Drive, but the polarization doesn't actually make as much difference as you might think. I've spectated with the wrong polarization before, and like it was worse, but it wasn't way worse. Yeah. Let's see here. 9:57. We got 3 more minutes here in the stream before... Micah V says, do you need to update your pledge every month to stay in the Discord? Yeah, obviously, if you stop being a patron, you don't... Well, here's the way it works. The way it actually works, Micah, is in the Discord, there are patron-only channels. So if you stop being a patron, you still get access to the public channel, but you don't get access to any of the patron areas. So you won't get kicked out of the server, but you won't get access to the patron areas. I mean, here's the thing. The real advantage of being in the server is all the other awesome people who are on the server. Because I drop into the server like twice a day. I answer all my DMs. I always do my best to answer DMs. But the channels, there's so many people on the server now. There's up to like a few hundred people. And at any given time, there's 300 or 400 people who are like actually there. Like if you like send a notification, they'll see it. And there's too many messages. Like I used to go to the server and I'd scroll back and I'd read all the messages from the last time I was there. But it goes by. I can't do that anymore. But there's so many amazing people there who are helping other people. It's really inspiring. And I even tag some of them with a know-it-all role so that people can ask them questions. And so if you get kicked out of the patron-only area, I mean, I'll still answer your questions, but you really are losing access to all them other amazing people who are in the patrons area. That's actually the reason to do it. And the people who are in the Discord will tell you that. Like, I'd love for people to be saying, Joshua's Discord is great. He is amazing. But they actually just say, Joshua's Discord is great. So many people here are so helpful. And I'm like, what about me? No, I'm not. 1 more minute till the end of the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Chris Fights Fun, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Does FPV get you chicks or dudes? Not me, but maybe. No, not really. Levitation FPV, thank you for $5 in the super chat. And coming up on the end. You guys want to check out what's coming up this week on my channel? We'll check out my editorial calendar. Tomorrow's video, 5 changes you must make in Betaflight 4.2 when you get started. Then we've got a troubleshooting video about the problem where you have 2 ESCs with the same unique ID. I'm probably going to push the massive droner to the end of the week to give me 1 more day to work on that review. And another video on my 3 packs a day challenge. We got a really fun 3 packs a day flying along to a song that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. That's what's coming up this week. But it's 10 o'clock. Aaron Ciotti, where's your live stream? Where's that link, dude? Let's see it. Aaron Ciotti, if you guys want to keep watching the stream, go check out Ciotti's. It's coming. He's going to post it any minute now. He's going to post it. But that's it for me, guys. Happy flying, everybody. See you on the internet.